Hey there riders, Moto Journo Kris here today, and we've finally got the sun coming out. Probably not the best thing because it is blinding me somewhat, but I wanted to talk about ergonomics on the Tracer 9 GT. This is a big touring or sports touring bike, 220 kilos, 810 to 825 millimeter seat height, which does make it a fairly easy machine, I would say, to jump onto. And of course, as you can see here, we're looking at kind of the sportier side of that kind of sports touring machine. So it isn't a long and low machine like the FJR 1300. It is slightly more like the taller, kind of older style touring machines with the taller front end. And in some ways that is similar to the adventure machines as we see them these days, with the taller front end and, you know, the same kind of setup. However, obviously full 17-inch wheel setup on this, very, very road orientated. It is by no means an adventure machine. It is a sports touring machine with that great little tribble. Now, talking about the overall ergos, I'm gonna jump on and give you a look. I'm 180 centimeters, 32-inch inseam, 70 kilos, probably a fairly average kind of height. I've got longer legs, shorter torso, and you'll be able to see really how the bike fits me. So I do have both feet down flat on the ground there. I am wearing my Adventure 2 city boots, which give me a little bit more reach to the ground. But overall, I would say it's quite an easy bike to reach the ground on. You do feel the weight because the bike is quite solid. However, it's not a top heavy machine. It's just a fairly heavy machine at the end of the day. Getting my boots up onto those rubber clad pegs, as you can see here, all very, very natural. Lots of room here for someone with longer legs if you're a much taller or much longer legged rider than I am. I find the bike quite roomy, easy reach to those bars. They're perhaps a little bit wider than I would normally be used to, but I'm not really complaining. I did feel a little bit of strain across the top of my elbows as a result of that after doing, say, 6 hours on the bike in a day, and normally that was just with one stop in the middle. But very little to complain about there, realistically speaking. Fairly easy reach to those levers as well. You can kind of see the ride triangle here. It's quite relaxed, it's very upright. Good wind protection from the screen as well, but you can get in behind the screen if you want to get away from the wind or the rain. The amount of rain protection that screen offered was exceptional, and you can knock it up to the higher setting. Great vision through the mirrors. The levers, adjustable on the right. The clutch lever is not adjustable, but a fairly light clutch lever. You've got quite active switch blocks. You can have a listen to what I was talking about with the switch blocks in the full review. And you've got dual TFT displays here on the front end, both 3.5-inch TFTs, which have the more important information on the left and some auxiliary information on the right. And that is nice to see, very easy to look down at and see what's going on, essentially speaking. Jumping on and off is quite easy. It's not one of those bikes which is really, really difficult to get onto or off. And I would say probably pushing this bike around, you do feel that weight. You do not want to be pushing this bike around. So anywhere I parked it nose out so I could just ride away because I didn't want to have to be pushing the bike around because, again, you feel that weight. As far as the pillion on the back, my wife came away with me. I think we did about 12 hours of riding over 2 days. So not an extreme amount of riding, but a decent amount. We mainly had pouring rain condition with a little bit of sun once we got inland, so that was nice. And the bike got a huge thumbs up in that department. I found the seat nice and low, very, very easy to sit on, very comfortable over long distances. 2 hours, no problem. By 3 hours in one go in the seat, my bum was getting a little bit sore. It's quite a sculpted seat, but at the end of the day, really can't complain about that. Perhaps not as comfortable as the FJR 1300, but overall, very, very good. Quite a wide pillion seat as well. Great grab rail. That is their pegs there. So probably not a lot of difference between the rider seat to peg ratio and the pillion seat to peg ratio. My wife did find, again, after about 3 hours, her legs were starting to get a bit sore. And I just said, you know what, just take 1 foot off the peg for a little while, give it a bit of a rest before putting it back on and then swap. Did that, no issues whatsoever. So certainly, again, as far as the comfort, it's not the biggest seat on the back, but you know, it's fairly square, fairly wide, certainly does the trick. The panniers did mean it was a little bit harder for my wife to get on. She's not such a fan of stepping on the peg and throwing a leg over, which is probably the main issue there. But I would say for 2-up riding, this is an exceptional machine. Probably not quite as relaxed as the FJR 1300, which I tested, must have been 2 years ago now, which also got a big thumbs up from my wife. However, I think from the sportiness factor, this is a little bit more lively, a little bit more upright. It'd be a hard pick between the two bikes, to be honest, if I was doing really long distance travel. But if I was looking for something a little bit sportier, it'd probably be this bike here, the Tracer 9 GT. And these are 24 on the road, and that is the GT version, so the up-spec version with the panniers and the electronic suspension here in Australia. And so I think that is a pretty good deal. Just having a quick talk about the suspension before I finish. Fully adjustable suspension, front and rear, KYB, it's a semi-active suspension system. It's fully adjustable. You've got preload adjustability on those front fork tops there. You've got an external preload adjuster so that when you've got someone on the back, very, very easy, and a full turn is basically a click. So very easy to tell and to adjust what you're doing on this bike for having someone extra on or knocking it back down to whatever setting you use for single riding. The suspension settings within the computer, I believe you get 2 ride modes from what I could see using the bike and what I read up on. Suspension 1, suspension 2. I just use suspension 1 for everything. It's possible if there was much worse roads, suspension 2 is meant to be a little bit more supple, and really at the end of the day, I just found suspension 1 felt a little bit better, felt a little bit tauter, a little bit nicer. And as I mentioned in my full review, the electronic suspension systems have quite a different system, but what they do exceptionally well. And the bike was very much stuck to the ground, and the pillion was very, very happy as far as that rear shock performance, as far as, you know, them getting moved around. I think there was once or twice I got a bit of a squeal out of my wife when we went over a really big bump, and that did come through. But overall, because we had the intercom on and I just, you know, quick, are you okay? And no dramas, just a little bit of a surprise. So a big thumbs up there from the rider and from the pillion. So if you've got any questions about the ergonomics of the Tracer 9 GT, just ask me in the comments. I will do my best to answer them. Obviously, I'm my size and my weight and my height and everything like that. So there may be some kind of maths required on your part to figure out how that might apply to you. But I think hopefully this will give you a good idea about the ergonomics of this bike. So thanks for watching the video. As always, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon. You can support the channel on Patreon.